What's up, YouTube? Georgia Silver Hunter back, and today we got something in the mail, the Elikliv TL301, and I'm excited to jump into it. It's been a while since I've gotten a new microscope. This one was provided free of charge as long as I gave it an honest review. So let's jump into it. So let's start by checking out the contents of this box. Let's see how it was packed. Of course, we did get a user manual that I'm sure I'll spend a little time reading along the way. Appears to be fairly well packaged. We have here a cleaning cloth that will likely never get used, but thanks for including it. We have, of course, the main part of the microscope, which is the 7-inch screen. The nice little protective cover on it, and the actual scope's attached to that. We've got ourselves here a remote control, which I always struggle with since you're basically within arm's distance of the microscope. USB cable, and this is kind of the interesting part of this microscope. It comes with a couple extra lenses. We've got another USB cable to complete the setup, and a micro HDMI to full HDMI cable for displaying this on a computer screen or TV. We've got ourselves a charging brick, and of course we've got the arm right here. Well, you can't build that microscope without having an arm. And this part seems to be fairly standard. I've got 3 or 4 microscopes now. They are all kind of built this exact same way, so nothing special here. And of course we've got the base hiding under here with the lighting system. So there are all the parts, and as I said, pretty well packaged. Got to my door pretty quickly, and now we're left with a box. So if you have seen any of my previous videos on microscopes, these all get built pretty similarly. There's an arm that the camera goes on that will fit in through the hole. Of course, this arm has to screw into the base, and then there's some cabling that we need to hook up back here to bring power in and to connect the LCD to the lights that we have right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here as best I can in the limited space I have, and hopefully we'll get this thing together here pretty quickly. So here is the LCD. This is the 7-inch screen that this one came with. Now it is 4K, and that should be interesting to see once we turn it all on. And what makes this scope really, really interesting is that it does come with 3 different sets of lenses, and we'll be talking about that as we get a little deeper into the review. But you can see that just pulls off really easy with some magnets, and there are 3 different lenses, and we'll go over that in a few minutes. Okay, well there it is. It's all built, and it's all put together. We've got all the cabling in, and the only thing I had to adjust was the stem, or the arm of this thing was slightly off center. You probably noticed it in the earlier clip. I did have to toggle this bolt a little bit, get a little wrench out, and fix that so it was nice and square. But other than that, the assembly went really, really well, and I'm going to go ahead and use this scope for a couple of days here, use it for a few hunts, and I'll come back and tell you what I like and don't like about it. So I've been using this, I'm going to pronounce it Elikliv, or Elikliv, 7-inch microscope now for about a week, and playing with the various features and comparing it to the other microscopes I own to see what really stands out in value for this microscope over maybe, say, one of the competitors, and kind of compare some of the features and what makes this one a little bit special. Those of you that maybe remember my last review, the real differentiator on the last scope was that it had a coin scale built into the base. Now this one, as you can see, there's no coin scale, but what is special about it is right here laying on the base, and it is that it comes with 3 different lenses. It comes with a long activity lens, or a long scope lens. It comes with a macro lens, and it comes with a wide telephoto lens. And what's really interesting about that is it really allows you to have 3 different types of applications for this scope with a really easy, quick change of the lenses should you need to do that. And I think this is a pretty novel and neat idea. It's held in place with magnets, and it works very, very well. I have found that for coin roll hunting and coin inspection, the long-range lens is good, The wide or telephoto lens is by far the best, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And for our purposes, for most of you watching my channel, this macro lens will come of little use because you have to be so very close to the subject. It's very hard to get light underneath to make using the lens worth it. It's really more for looking at things like leaves and insects and slides and those kinds of things like you might in a typical, maybe scientific experience. So for me, the L and the W lens work best. So I will say that I really do enjoy this scope. I'm going to get into some of the features now that I really like about it. And the first one is the screen size. The last scope review that I did was a 4 or a 4.1 inch screen, which is just too small. I also have one that's 10 inches, and this one is right around 7, I believe, 7.1 maybe. And this screen size is really nice. It makes the scope a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, and a little bit easier to use, and I really do like that about this scope. You might think that the lens changing is a really cool thing, but I think you're going to find one lens works best for you, and you're going to put that in and forget that you even had these other two lenses. But who knows? If you have a couple of different hobbies, maybe that'll come into play for you. One of the other things I kind of like about this one is they've given some better thought to how these buttons get used. The main one being you still have a zoom in and a zoom out. And what I like here is that in the corner when you zoom in, you still get to see what your full view is, and the little red box shows what's inside. So let me put a coin under here for you to take a look at. I may have to focus in on it. Trying to find something specific that we want to see here, like the double die obverse here in my 1964. You can see that we're zoomed way in, and what's in the small square is what you see. What's in the big square is what the overall lens can see, which I really, really like. One of the other things I like about it is that you can switch modes by holding this OK button in to switch to video, to switch to split screen. So if you recall the little view we had in the corner, it now breaks that out and does a side by side. So as I zoom in here, you will see that what's in the little box is over here on the side. So if I wanted to kind of find what I'm looking for over here, I can get the close-up of my serifs right here in the side box, which I think is really, really cool. So I really do like this feature, and a lot of my other scopes had this feature, but it was very convoluted how you got to it through the menu system, and you'd have to go 2 or 3 levels deep to get there. I like that they put this feature right here in the OK button. This is the freeze mode, again, something that one of my other scopes has, but I never really thought to use, and it's where you can find what you're looking for. Let's say we were unsure if we had a DDO, right? So we would come in here. We would find what we wanted. We would tap that OK button and take a picture of it. We can take that out and maybe find another coin that we wanted to compare it to. Now, comparing a 64 to a 2018 is really not the right play here, but I'm going to do it to make my point. And here is the U on a 2018, and now I can actually have those two coins side by side without fumbling around inside the menuing system, which I really, really like. So next I'm going to focus on something that I both like and don't like about this microscope. So in a lot of my other ones, the brightness of the little stems here are controlled by a touch screen, or a touch control either here or down in the base. The other ones I think are kind of fixed brightness and fixed sort of, I guess, size, if you will. Like you can see the spotlight size on this thing doesn't really change. Now, something I've noticed in this particular model is that you can, and I'm going to try to do this one-handed, I'm going to do it like this, you can pull out on these things, and it will turn that into a more focused spotlight. So you can change just how much light is coming out of your respective sort of light source here. And I'll flip the scope around on the back and show you this in a close-up, but you can also change the intensity of that light. Any of you that coin roll hunt know that one of the biggest problems you have identifying a DDO or a DDR is you'll have your coin up here in the lens, and most of them provide so much light on top of your coin that it gets all washed out, and it's nearly impossible to tell what you have. Or you think you have something, and you're having to look at it in a ton of different angles to make sure you have what you think you have. And with here, you've got options where you can slide the lights out of the way, you can change the focus on them, or at the end of the day, you can change the intensity of that light really easily. And I actually prefer that it's on a mechanical wheel rather than on a touch screen, because for whatever reason, my other scope, it's pretty much the light is off or it's on. When you get in the middle, it makes very little difference. So let me turn this thing around and show you the little wheel I'm talking about. It's back here on the back. It's easy to get to, and you can see as I twist it, the intensity of that light goes up and down. And of course, these lights are very, it's on like a little telescope lens here, or telescope arm, so you can move it wherever you need to, or completely get it out of your way. While I'm back here, let's talk about the back of the microscope. It's pretty standard based on all other microscopes. It does have a mini HDMI out, so you can plug it directly into a monitor or a TV. It does come with a 64 gigabyte, I think it's a 64 gigabyte micro SD card, which is fantastic because a lot of them only come with like, I want to say a much smaller one, like 8 gig or 16 gig. We do have our micro or our USB-C in, which that's going to plug into your power supply, and then you've got a USB out to the base to power your lights. So this is all pretty common. One thing I did notice is the instructions say it doesn't come with a battery. Most of my other scopes, there's a little door back here where you can remove a lithium rechargeable battery. On this one, it says it doesn't come with a battery, but if I unplug the power, you will see that my scope is still on. And I tested this and it stayed on for about 2.5 or 3 hours. And it was at full brightness. I did have the lights running, which is pretty good for if you were traveling with this thing and just needed to maybe hunt some coins while you were on vacation. But you can always bring a power supply and power it from there. So to talk about the specs a little bit more, this is a lot higher end scope than most of my other ones. It is a small 4K screen. Your eyes are not capable of really making out the fact that it's 4K. But I will say this is the crispest screen I have of any of the microscopes that I have. As I said, it's a 64 gig micro SD card, which doesn't actually get you to 64. We see 58.2 here as the total amount available. And I can store up to 4,800 38 megapixel pictures on here, which is an insane amount of pictures. And one thing I've kind of glazed over is it does come with a little hand remote here. So if I want to take a picture of this guy, and if you pay attention to my number down here, I can tap the picture icon or the picture button on my remote, and that should go up. And of course it didn't, but we're going to try it again. Do I need to point it at it? There we go. I have to point it at it. Sorry about that. You can do the same thing with recording. There's a little record button, and I believe we can hit the record button, and you'll see that it is now going to record what I have over here. It's going to record all that to my micro SD card, which I can get to. By plugging that micro SD or that micro USB. I can't talk. The USB-C cable into a computer, or popping that micro SD card out and putting it into the computer. So tons of space on this thing. And this is like all other microscopes in this class. You need something like Photo Booth or Windows Camera to project this image up onto your computer if you decide to plug it in that way. I'm not going to cover that feature in this review because I've covered it in almost every other scope review I've done, and it's really straightforward. But it does work. I have tested it, and it works very, very well. And this last feature I want to get into might be the game changer for many of you, because I get this question after every microscope review I do, and I've gotten it in email, and sometimes I get it on my live stream. But as you can see here, I have a 2023 American Silver Eagle on here, which is going to be the same size as a Morgan or a Peace Dollar. And it did take me a while to set this up. I had to completely move my rack that I use typically to hold my camera. But you can see we cranked that lens all the way up, and there's our telephoto lens. We can actually get that entire coin on screen, and I need to adjust it a little bit because I'm missing just a little bit of the top there, but we can actually get this entire guy there on screen and get really good full screen pictures of our various coins. And I don't have any other scopes that can do that. So I think that is all due to this lens. I've tried it with the L lens. It doesn't quite allow you enough focus to get there. The macro lens, definitely not, because that lens pretty much needs to be sitting on top of the subject. So pretty cool. So for those of you that care about this, these big coins barely fit, but they do. Everything smaller than this is going to do just fine. For those of you that are curious, I did put the L lens in there, or the long work lens in there, and you can see I can still get a really, really good image on there. And of course, I can still crank this microscope down a little bit and get a little closer, or I can continue to use this digital zoom to get in a little bit closer. So again, I think for you coin roll hunters out there, you can play around with that long work lens and that telephoto lens and see which one works best for you. I like the W lens simply because it gives me the most flexibility without having to change it in and out. But you have options, and let me show you what the macro lens looks like and just how close you have to get to the subject. So I've had to kind of jerry-rig this together to actually be able to show you how this works, but the instructions do recommend that you have something white or reflective underneath your subject so that you can get some light under there so the scope can actually see something. You're also going to need to get your subject kind of off the ground a little bit so you can get some light under there. And that lens has to be really, really close. And so I've used a little thing, and I forget what this thing is called. I've talked about it in a previous video, but it's actually really helpful for looking at coins. But this is the image you get at 1x zoom. This is how close you are to that coin. And this is about the max. Anything else, you have to get closer. I can't zoom out anymore. I can't make this any smaller with that macro lens. So that makes sense because it does want you to be up really, really close. And perhaps if you have a really fine error that you're trying to look at, this macro lens might come in handy. But for me, it's just too much work to get a decent picture of your coin. And you would go nuts trying to find DDOs and DDRs with the amount of work it takes to set it up. So just wanted to show it to you to get an idea of kind of all the things I had to do to get a decent image. Otherwise, you have these lights and you're literally having to turn them like this to get light underneath there if your coin is just sitting on the table. So not a huge fan of the macro lens, but maybe you'll find a use for it. So let's talk about my thoughts in conclusion about this scope. It is my current favorite scope that I have. And I'm not saying that because it was given to me for free to review. I'm saying that because it is truly my favorite scope to work with. The screen size is perfect at 7 inches. 10's a little bit big. It crowds up my work area. It is nice to have 10 inches of screen space, but the 7 is just fine. And the 4-inch that I have is just too small for day-to-day tasks, especially when you're going through $2,000 or $3,000 worth of coins a week. I do appreciate the thought that they've given into the buttons. I think it's far more intuitive than some of the other setups I have, even though you can tell the software behind these things, it's all the same. It just depends on how the individual manufacturers have decided to implement it. It is the first time I've actually thought that I might use this remote control from time to time if I were to do videos or camera work here, but typically I don't. I typically just record what's on screen and move things around. Something else I like about it, the fact that I can raise it all the way up and get a full coin view on it. I do really appreciate that. I do like the lighting setup as well, having the ability to change the intensity of the light, both from a brightness perspective and a focus perspective. I think that is really, really well done. So in totality, it is my favorite. Also, I do think the color production on screen is quite good too. I don't think I have actually I do have a penny nearby. I have some scopes that when you put a penny underneath and you get this brown in there, it turns gray. It gets really washed out. And on this, you can actually see like the green and the browns and the reds that are in that coin. And I just think the color reproduction on it is really quite good. So those are all the reasons that I like it. Now, that said, it is one of the more expensive scopes. The little digital pluggable guy that I talk about in a lot of my earlier videos, that guy's around, I don't know, these days it's up to $49 or $59. The last scope I reviewed that was a little 4-inch with the scale built in, when it was first released, it was kind of in that $50, $60 range, so it was definitely nice for an entry-level microscope. Something like this, though, I can't see you wanting to really upgrade from here. So today on Amazon, it's on sale for $138.99 with Prime 2-day shipping. And this is the cheapest you're going to find it all season here during Black Friday. So if you're interested, I'd suggest going ahead and buying it now. I will throw an Amazon affiliate link on screen and in the description down below. Like I said, can't say enough positive things about this scope, and I will be using it in my future videos. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, drop on down below. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them. Make sure you do click on that like button and click on that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Click that notification bell so you get notified each and every time I release a new video. I'd really appreciate that. With that said, I hope you guys are doing well. I have been trying to get some coins. I'm on, I think, 4 weeks in a row now without being able to get halves from the bank and boxes. Just nobody's getting their orders in. So I did pick up some customer wrapped rolls and some Loomis rolls of quarters, nickels, and dimes. We'll be going through those soon, and we will be using this scope, so I look forward to doing it. And with that, you guys take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.